So why do animals do the things they do? I mean, really think about it. From the mind-bogglingly complex dance of a honeybee to the perfectly coordinated hunt of a wolf pack, the animal kingdom is just packed with behaviors that are fascinating, complex, and sometimes, let's be honest, just plain weird. Today we're diving headfirst into ethology, the science that's all about cracking this behavioral code. This whole field is really built on solving puzzles. Even the great Charles Darwin himself was literally stumped by certain behaviors, things that just seemed to fly in the face of his theory of natural selection, especially acts of self-sacrifice or altruism. He knew that if an animal consistently helped another at its own expense, it was a massive headache for survival of the fittest. And that central mystery, well, that's exactly what we're going to solve today. So to get there, here's our game plan. First, we're going to build our toolkit with the 4 essential questions every ethologist asks. Then we'll dig into the building blocks of behavior, things like instinct and learning. After that, we'll see how these tools are put to the test in the high-stakes games of mating and survival. And finally, we'll come full circle and solve Darwin's paradox of selfishness and cooperation. Let's get into it, right? First things first. If you want to understand behavior, you absolutely need to know which questions to ask. And trust me, it's not as simple as just asking why. This is the big one, isn't it? The million-dollar question. And the scientist who gave us the perfect framework to actually answer it was Nobel laureate Nicholas Tinbergen. He had this brilliant insight that to get the full picture, you actually need to ask 4 very different but totally complementary questions. So here's Tinbergen's framework. He split the puzzle into 2 main categories. First, you've got the proximate questions. These are all about the how. What's happening right now to trigger the behavior? That's causation. And how did that behavior develop over the animal's lifetime? Then you have the ultimate questions. These are the why questions. What's the function of this behavior? How does it help the animal survive and reproduce? And what's its evolutionary history? Where did it come from? Let's make this super concrete with a simple human example. You see a red light and you stop. So causation? That's your nervous system processing a visual stimulus. Light hits your eye, brain says break. Development? Well, you learned this rule, right? You weren't born knowing it. Function? Easy. It helps you and everyone else survive. And evolution? The system has a history. It evolved from things like warning flags, and it looks different in different cultures. You see? 4 totally different answers. All of them are correct, and you need all of them for the complete story. We can use this exact same toolkit for any animal behavior out there. Okay, so now that we have our toolkits, let's look at the actual raw materials that behavior is built from. We're talking about that age-old dance between what's hardwired from birth and what's picked up along the way. On one side, you have instinct. That's nature. It's the genetically programmed stuff. A perfect example is a potter wasp that can build an incredibly complex nest flawlessly on its very first try. No lessons needed. And on the other side, you have learning. That's nurture. It's all about adapting through experience, like young elephants who literally spend years learning vast migration routes from the matriarchs of the herd. Now, the crucial thing to remember is this isn't a battle. These forces work together, hand in hand. So when you combine instinct and learning, you can get some incredibly sophisticated results. We tend to think of language as a uniquely human thing, but is it? I mean, really, can an animal, maybe even an insect, use symbolic communication? The answer is a resounding yes. Take vervet monkeys. They have distinct alarm calls. They're essentially words for different predators. A leopard call sends everyone scrambling up a tree. An eagle call makes them look up and dive into the bushes. But maybe the most mind-blowing example of all comes from honeybees and their famous waggle dance. Okay, this dance is pure genius. A scout bee comes back to the hive, which is totally dark inside, and she performs this dance on the vertical honeycomb. And get this, the angle of her straight run tells the other bees the exact direction to fly in relation to the sun. And the duration of that waggle, that tells them precisely how far away it is. It is, quite literally, a set of GPS coordinates delivered through dance. Amazing. Okay, so let's take these building blocks and apply them to the most critical, high-stakes game in the entire animal kingdom, reproduction. This is where an animal's entire behavioral playbook is put to the ultimate test. And it all starts with a concept called anisogamy. Now, it's a bit of a mouthful, but it describes a really simple and profound difference. Males produce millions and millions of cheap, tiny sperm, while females produce a much smaller number of large, energetically expensive eggs. This one biological fact shapes almost everything that follows in the mating game. So this basic difference leads to two main kinds of sexual selection. Because females make a much bigger investment in each egg, they're typically the choosier sex. This is called intersexual selection, or mate choice. Just think of a peahen carefully inspecting a peacock's tail, looking for an honest signal of good genes. And because males can potentially fertilize lots of females, they often end up competing fiercely with each other for access. That's intrasexual selection, and it's why you see things like the massive horns on bighorn sheep. All of this competition and choice results in this incredible variety of mating systems across the animal kingdom. You've got polygyny, where one male has a whole harem of females. You've got rare polyandry, where one female mates with multiple males. And of course, you have the social monogamy that's really common in birds. Each one of these is just an evolutionary solution to a particular set of environmental challenges. Of course, you can't even get to the mating game if you don't survive day to day. And that really means solving two fundamental problems: how to find food, and just as important, how to avoid becoming food. When it comes to defense, you can really split the strategies into two major categories based on timing. First, you have primary defenses. This is all about not being seen in the first place. It's your camouflage, it's freezing in place. But if that fails and you're spotted, you switch to your secondary defenses. Now the goal is totally different. It's all about surviving the encounter. And check this out. This is primary defense in action, and it is brilliant. It's not just about looking like the background, it's about behaving like it too. On the left, you've got a potu bird sitting perfectly still, pretending to be a broken tree stump. And on the right, that stick insect doesn't just look like a twig, it aligns its body perfectly to complete the illusion. It's incredible. But sometimes the best defense is, well, it's just plain weird. When a gazelle spots a predator, like a cheetah, it might start doing this strange, high-prancing jump called stotting. This isn't just panic. It's an honest signal sent directly to the predator. The gazelle's basically shouting, "Look how fit and energetic I am. Don't even bother trying to chase me. You'll just waste your energy." It's a calculated, costly, and brutally honest message. Okay, so all these strategies, fighting, fleeing, honest signaling, it's all about maximizing an individual's own chances of survival and reproduction. It's survival of the fittest in its purest form. But this brings us right back to where we started, to that big central puzzle. What about behavior that seems to do the exact opposite? This is altruism. It's any act that lowers your own chances of survival and reproduction while increasing someone else's. And from that classic, individualistic, survival of the fittest viewpoint, this just shouldn't exist. It's a behavior that should be immediately eliminated by natural selection. This is the very thing that kept Darwin up at night. The solution finally came from a biologist named W.D. Hamilton, who gave us this simple but incredibly powerful mathematical rule. Let's walk through it with this wild turkey example. A male turkey will often help his dominant brother mate, even if it means he doesn't get to mate himself. The cost to the helper, which we call C, is the 0.9 offspring he forgoes. The benefit, B, is the extra 6.1 offspring his brother gets because of his help. And their relatedness, R, is 0.42. So Hamilton's rule says you multiply the relatedness by the benefit, and if that number is bigger than the cost, the behavior is favored. And as you can see, the result is a positive number. Evolution says, go for it, help your brother. So what this all leads to is this revolutionary idea called inclusive fitness. Fitness isn't just about your own kids, it's about your total genetic legacy. It's a combination of your direct fitness through your own offspring and your indirect fitness from helping your relatives pass on the very same genes that you share. And just like that, with this elegant concept, Darwin's great paradox was solved. We've seen that animals use these costly, honest signals, like a stag's roar, to communicate real, verifiable information about their strength or fitness. But nature is also absolutely full of dishonest signals, bluffs, tricks, and mimicry, all designed to deceive. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. In our own world, which is just saturated with signals, from advertising to social media, what dishonest signals are we falling for?